Okay, we are live on Proline TV, the Ourlads Football Network, as we preview an NFC West team, the LA Rams. A lot of people believe the Rams could be a nice little sleeper pick to win the Super Bowl. So a lot riding on the health of Matthew Stafford, and we're going to get into all that and more with Blaine Grisak. And Blaine is with turfshowtimes.com. Blaine, thanks for taking the time to do this.
No, Greg. Thanks for having me. We're looking forward to this conversation. Like you said, there's a lot of expectations on this team heading into 2025.
Yeah, this is it's interesting. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that how they came really close to beating the Eagles in the playoffs last year, considering how well Philly looked in some of the other games. That showed a lot of respect for the Rams. They're just going to get a little bit older and more experienced. They were a very young team last year. So I think all that has a lot to do with it. And of course, as I mentioned, now you get into the offseason and there's contractual discussions with Matthew Stafford. A lot of people are wondering if he's even going to be on the team. He settles the contract, he's on the team, and then it's like not too much longer after that. It's all of a sudden now Matthew Stafford's a little bit injured, banged up. What's going to happen? How long is he going to miss? He's not going to miss. So what's going on with Matthew Stafford? And what's the wager do you think it is on the over-under of how many games Stafford will start this year?
Yeah, no, it seems like every offseason with Stafford, there's been some sort of drama, if you will. In 2022, he had the elbow. Then 2023, he had the contract, and this year he had a contract and a health issue. So just kind of a lot going on, obviously. But yeah, I as far as kind of Stafford's health goes, I think this team throughout the whole process, they've been very confident in sort of where he's been at. There's been a lot of, I think, I don't want to say panic, but I think some concern from the outside, and rightfully so, I think, especially given just how the Rams have handled injuries in the past. But yeah, I think they've always been confident in his availability for Week 1, and it sounds like right now that he is expected to play in Week 1 against the Houston Texans. And I think all the concerns, as you kind of alluded to, happen after Week 1. You know, how does he handle taking a big hit from Will Anderson against the Texans in Week 1? And then in Week 3, they have Nick Bosa and the 49ers coming to town. So how does he manage those hits? How does he manage a full game's workload? Things like that. And I guess, as far as him playing a whole season, they at least, unlike 2022, they at least have, I think, some comfort level in their backup quarterback situation with Jimmy Garoppolo there. But I'd probably set the over-under. I'd go maybe 12.5, I think.
Really?
I think that'd be a fair number, yeah.
Okay. So you would be kind of surprised then if he started 14 or more games.
I would probably take the over. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he missed. If he missed a couple, I wouldn't be surprised. But just given the concern with the back and things like that, I do think 12.5 is still pretty fair.
Okay. Now Jimmy didn't look all that great last year, but so there's still confidence that he hasn't lost it because he's getting older. So there, or maybe there was some misleading, film as far as what we saw last year. So everybody's confident that if Jimmy needs to come in for a few games, he's going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think he played all right in that Week 18 game against the Seattle Seahawks, and I think it's also important to remember too that was him going against Seattle starters, and the Rams were resting a lot of their starters in that game. But I think just there's a trust level in his ability to at least run the offense. I think you go back to 2022 and even 2023 when they had to rely on Brett Rippon for that game against the Green Bay Packers, is they had guys that they just couldn't trust to run the offense.
Yeah.
And this is the guy, Jimmy Garoppolo, who has spent a majority of his career in this offense. He had a lot of success in San Francisco, and obviously I don't think it's fair to expect him to be the quarterback that he was with the 49ers back in 2019 when he led them to the Super Bowl. But as far as just his ability to keep the offense on track and maybe pull out a win or two if Stafford were to miss a handful of games, I think there is certainly a comfort level there.
All right. Well, let's get started with the offense, and I'll pop up the Ourlads depth chart for the Rams. And I actually do want to one more question about the quarterback position. And I think just based on what I've seen from Stetson Bennett in this preseason compared to previous preseasons, I think we're night and day. I really like what I saw to Stetson Bennett, and I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
saying that Stetson.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
saying I'm
no,
trying to say that Stetson Bennett should be the backup. All I'm saying is like last year, I would have said, well, what's this guy even doing on the team? And now I think this guy is a bona fide, excellent looking backup quarterback that may actually be able to compete for a starting role somewhere.
yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think you like you said, going back to last year and even his rookie year, he just he wasn't he wasn't very good from a timing perspective, and this year he was a lot better there. He put the ball in harm's way a lot less, that's for sure. Um, and when they drafted him, there was I think they drafted him to kind of be the long term backup, and after last year and heading into this year, there were a lot of I think question marks there. But yeah, he had a fantastic preseason, and I think when you're talking post Jimmy Garoppolo as that QB2 in the locker room, I think Stetson Bennett kind of showed that maybe he can be that guy moving forward post 2026.
Okay. All right. So as far as the rest of the offense, let's start first of all. We've got a little red color on one player, Alaric Jackson, the left tackle, who has been banged up. So let's start there. What's the latest on Jackson's health?
Yeah, so all offseason he's been dealing with some blood clots. It was an issue that he had back in 2022 that forced him to miss the entire second half of the 2022 season. And I think blood clots are one of those things. I mean, you look at Christian Barmore last year with the New England Patriots. He had the blood clots in the offseason, missed really the first 2 months of the regular season, came back, and then a month later he's put back on IR. So I think it's something that is very fluid, and it's just hard to kind of put a timetable on. As of right now, he's expected to play in week 1, which I think surprises a lot of people.
Okay.
As far as kind of how he manages that throughout the season, I think McVay is kind of alluded to it too. They're just kind of taking it a week at a time and going from there. You can't. It's just one of those things that you can't really put any expectations on. And right now he looks good. He's been kind of working on the side he's finally getting into practice this week, which is a positive. But as far as how his body reacts, I think is certainly an unknown. But just as far as having him out there though, in week 1 against a very good Texans pass rush will be a positive.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I would definitely be concerned with, is having him having him unavailable against that Houston defense. So, but if anything happens to Jackson, do you think they feel comfortable? I mean, DJ Humphries been around a while. He's started games, so do they feel comfortable with DJ Humphries coming in?
I don't know if comfortable is the word. I think he's someone that they can, I think, kind of trust to be in that spot if it's just for a one game fill in.
Okay.
Per se, he didn't really play well last year with the Chiefs. I don't think he's the kind of that Pro Bowl caliber tackle that he was kind of towards the end of his tenure with the Arizona Cardinals. But just kind of as an experienced player that they can put in at left tackle if Alaric Jackson were to miss time.
Okay.
That's about it. Yeah.
So they really can't afford to lose Alaric Jackson for extended time, can they?
No, this offense. I mean, you go back throughout the entire McVay era. This offense goes as the health of the offensive line goes. I mean, 2022 was a disaster, and that was because the offensive line had a significant number of injuries. Go back to 2023 in that first half of the season, and they had some injuries to the offensive line. Go back to the beginning of last year, and they were dealing with some uncertainties on the offensive line, some injuries there. So, yeah, when it comes to this offensive line, it really is the kind of heart of this offense and or the engine of the offense, and the offense goes as it goes. And I mean, I think there is some promising depth. I mean, I think you look at Warren McClendon, he's into year 3 now. It's someone that they've been developing. But Limmer got some good starting experience last year, but was a reason why they weren't able to beat the Eagles on that final drive. So I think there's some promising depth, but I also don't think that you necessarily want to see one of the starters leave the lineup either.
Are you surprised, as good as this front office has been? Are you surprised that they haven't beefed up the line, the depth overall on the line?
I am a little bit, yeah. It's they really haven't put a lot of draft capital in it at all. I mean, you look at just kind of their draft history, and they did spend a second round pick on Steve Avila, obviously. In 2022 they spent a second or a third round pick, but it was just still 100 the 101st overall, so it wasn't a top 100 pick or anything on Logan Bruss, and that didn't work out. But before that, I mean, they haven't spent a top 150 pick on an offensive lineman. It's just not a place that they've put a ton of resources in, which is surprising, just
Yeah,
considering. I mean, Matthew Stafford is your like best player
yeah.
on your offense, and he's 38 years old now, and he's someone that you want to be able to keep up, right? So yeah, it's a risk that they've taken, and I guess we'll see if it pays
See if
off.
it works. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, Haverstein's not getting any younger either. So
No,
it's
no, not at all.
at some point they are going to have to. And who knows? Maybe this upcoming draft it'll be all about the offensive line. All right. So any other key injuries of note, either offensively or defensively, we need to be keeping an eye on.
Um, I would just kind of note Terrence Ferguson kind of dealt with the groin injury for most of the offseason, for a lot of the offseason, for a lot of training camp rather. And he has been practicing, but we'll see how effective he is early on. But yes, as far as that goes, I think pretty much covered it. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, because even though they have two really key players, big time players for their team, Stafford and Jackson, who look like they're going to play week one, are banged up a little bit. The fact is, this is as docile of a looking injured reserve list that I've seen. I mean, they're pretty healthy.
Yeah, they are, and that really is the primary goal for this team when they approach the offseason. That their goal is to keep everybody healthy, be the most ready that they can for week one. It's a reason why McVay doesn't play a lot of his starters in the preseason, and obviously things can still happen in training camp and whatnot. But the primary goal for this team is to be as healthy as they can heading into week one, and for the most part, I mean, like we talked about it. There are some question marks at quarterback and left tackle, obviously, but for the most part, they are very healthy.
Okay. Now let's take a look here, and it looks like out of the rookie class, of course, Hunter, you expect to see a little bit. You just mentioned Ferguson. Are there any rookies at all from this particular class, including Sean Dolak? I think Sean Dolak, of course, an interesting story. I think a lot of people were surprised that he wasn't drafted. He had such a tremendous career in Buffalo, and maybe that's the reason. You're playing the MAC. Nobody gives you any credit, and you're not exactly the best athlete in the world. But maybe it's not a surprise that he made the team as a college free agent. So, what about this rookie class?
Yeah, I think offensively, I am, I think, excited about guys like Jarquez Hunter and Terrence Ferguson. I think moving forward, I can see Terrence Ferguson having more of an impact in the second half of the year. There has been talk that the Rams are going to use more 12 personnel this season, so I guess we'll see how much Terrence Ferguson is involved in that. But I still, for the most part, I think his impact will come more in the second half of the year. And then as far as Hunter goes, it's a very competitive running back room. I mean, you have Kyron Williams, and they just extended him this offseason. They drafted Blake Coleman in the third round in the third round last year, and he had, I think, 56 carries or so in as a rookie. So there's certainly some experience there. So I wouldn't necessarily expect a lot from Hunter as a rookie. But the guy that I keep coming back to is on the defensive side of the ball, and that's Josiah Stewart. I mean, you do look at the Rams edge rushers, and they do have obviously you have Jared Verse and Byron Young there, and those are two. That's, I think, one of probably the top five edge rusher duos in the NFL, honestly. But Rams, they lost Michael Hoyt in free agency. They kind of need a third guy to step up to kind of be part of that rotation, and I would expect that to be Stewart. There a lot of positive things were said about him in the offseason. So yeah, I think if there's a rookie in this class that kind of makes them that has the most impact, I think Stewart is the guy to watch.
Okay. Were there any surprise cuts last week on the 53 man? I see here you got a bunch of CFAs made the practice squad. Anything surprising there?
Yeah, I think the one that surprised a lot of people was cutting Chris Paul Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they drafted him in the fifth round. They actually traded 2 6th round picks to move up and get him, and he was somebody that I think a lot of people kind of thought was maybe a 3rd round pick or a day 2 guy.
Sure.
Ended up going on day 3, but especially I think when you look at Troy Reader, I don't think a lot of fans, a lot of Rams fans aren't huge fans of Troy Reader, but he's an experienced guy in that room and somebody that they just kind of trust if an injury were to happen. So I don't think it was ever a Chris Paul Jr. versus Troy Reader type thing. I think it was more, you mentioned him. I think it was Sean Dolak really impressed his coaching staff all offseason and had a really good preseason. And unfortunately, tough decisions are made, and Chris Paul Jr. was a victim of that.
Good for them. Not a lot of teams would do that. Hey, I spent, like you said, I traded up to get a guy. I'm going to look a little bad if I'm going to let a college free agent kid beat out my draft pick, but good for them. All right. And that's the reason why, by the way, I believe Les Snead is the best general manager in the NFL. So I know he's competition, but after what the Rams went through a few years ago, how this team is in contention the last couple of years is mind blowing. So
yeah, I mean, when it comes to that front office, being willing to admit a mistake, they're one of the best. I think a lot of GMs would kind of double down on things like that, and like you said, Snead has done well adjusting and improvising off of those.
Are there any of these young players here that we need to keep an eye on in the practice squad that could actually contribute this year?
As far as this year,
No,
probably not. But as far as kind of moving on, or looking ahead, Brendan Presley had a really good preseason. I think he's somebody that could maybe take on that Xavier Smith role. Kind of, I think going into next year. Tutu Atwell will also be a free agent next year. So he's someone I think will be in competition for a spot on the 53-man roster next year for sure.
Yeah, and speaking, you mentioned wide receiver Xavier Smith. He did have a very strong preseason. I don't know. I guess he's had some good preseasons before. Has that been the case? Do you think that he's ready now or is it just a matter of, I guess, if he gets the opportunity, because there is he's basically the 6th man, right? Or maybe he's the 5th man as far as the receiver pecking order goes. So it's not like he's going to get a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I think he developed a lot as a receiver this year. I think in the past he's kind of been more of get the ball in this guy's hands and let him go to work. But I think he really developed as a receiver and from a route running perspective, especially. As far as this year goes, like I said, he is more of kind of the 6th man there, so I don't know if he'll get a ton of opportunities, but he did show last year that he can be a threat as a punt returner and in the return game. So I think that's kind of where he'll make the most of his impact.
Okay. What about Whittington? Speaking of receivers, I heard a lot of positive things about him last year. Do you think there's an opportunity for him potentially to take another step?
For sure. I think, when you look at that, when you look at the Rams receiver room, they obviously have Devonta Adams and Puka Nacua as that kind of 1A, 1B, but behind them, Tutu, I think it's going to be a kind of a 3A, 3B situation when it comes to Jordan Whittington and Tutu Atwell. Kind of whatever situation, whatever the situation dictates, that's the guy that's going to be on the field. You look at Jordan Whittington, he's just kind of this. He can do a lot of the dirty work and the physical things that the Rams I think are going to be missing after cutting Cooper Kupp in the offseason. So as far as kind of maybe early downs or red zone stuff, I think he's a guy that you look for in that situation. And I know he is a guy that they are looking for, that they are really excited about.
Okay, so offensively, it looks like the Rams are going to be just fine if they could stay healthy. And we know how good they were defensively last year. A lot of good young players. Again, they acquired over the last few draft classes. Give me a player on defense that you think can actually take maybe even another step this year, maybe a breakout player.
This is probably going to be a cop-out answer, but I'm going Jared Verse. Yeah,
Why? Oh,
it's,
so are you expecting like a monster season from Jared
yeah,
Verse now?
I'm expecting him to be like he was defensive rookie of the year last year. Obviously, only had 4.5
That is
sacks.
true. That's
But
true.
from a pressure standpoint, he when we look from a pressure standpoint, he had a huge impact. I expect him to be in the defensive player of the year conversation this year. I don't think he'll win it, but as far as you at the end. After week 18, I think if we're listing our top 5 guys for defensive player of the year, I think he will be in that top 5. So I'm expecting him to kind of take that next step and kind of finish more opportunities than he did last year. Maybe end up closer to the, I think, 12 and a half, 14 and a half sack range, and really take a huge step forward. Another guy I'd watch as well would be, I think, Emmanuel Forbes. He was a guy they took a chance on last year, and he's had a really good offseason.
Okay.
I could see by after the bye week Forbes surpassing Darius Williams.
Yeah, it's nice to see Forbes. It's just like you see at quarterbacks in any position. You know, it didn't work out. Former first round pick, he's a bust, and he goes somewhere else, and then all of a sudden he can find maybe a new scheme, a new life, and it's nice to see that Forbes looks like he might be able to find a nice home with the Rams. Also, speaking of the defensive backfield, Darius Williams is a strange player to me. Seems like you never know what you're going to get out of Darius Williams from year to year, from team to team, from scheme to scheme. I don't know what to get out of Darius Williams. What kind of a player is he?
Yeah, I was honestly kind of, I don't want to say confused, but I was kind of surprised that they didn't cut him during the offseason. They could have saved some cap space by doing so. I think he was a player that they brought back last year. Just they've been rebuilding this defense, and you can't rebuild everything in one off season. So he was just a guy that had spent he had prior experience with the Rams. Obviously, had experience with the coaching staff, experience with the scheme. So he was the guy that it made sense to bring back last year. As far as yeah, he didn't have a great year last year. He finished strong, but really struggled early on. And yeah, I was surprised that Rams didn't invest in the cornerback position this offseason, but that they also just didn't that they didn't move on from Williams with an opportunity to do so.
And that's why you believe Forbes at some point during this season might be able, if he plays well, to steal some of his reps.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
From what I've heard, Williams hasn't had the best offseason, while Forbes is somebody that the coaching staff has talked about pretty frequently. So I do expect Williams to be out to be the starter in week 1, but
Okay.
I could see like a Trey White situation like last year, where I don't know if Williams necessarily gets traded, but I could see Forbes at some point surpassing him for sure.
Which one of the DBs has the biggest upside as far as the bench between McCullough, Durant, and Wallace?
I would say McCullough. I think he's gonna get a lot of playing time. Chris Shula played a lot of free safety looks, especially on third down. They played a lot of dime, and he was kind of that dime linebacker. So I would expect his role to be expanded a little bit. And yeah, as an undrafted free agent last year, he really surpassed expectations.
Same question for the defensive line: Murchison, Tyler Davis, Dejuan Johnson. Who has the biggest upside there?
I would go with Tyler Davis. He had some strong moments last year. He is someone that has had a really good offseason, 6th round pick out of Clemson. So someone that can be part of that kind of run stopping defensive line rotation. I think he is someone that the coaching staff is excited about.
Yeah, our lad's projecting him as high as a 3rd round pick coming out. So they definitely feel that he is somebody to keep an eye on for sure. Nate Landman, I'm glad to see he's healthy because really that's the only thing that basically precludes him from getting in there and making a difference. I know he's not the greatest athlete in the world and all that, but yeah, I mean, how did this come about?
Yeah, I think he's just someone that has experience kind of in what the Rams want to do on defense. He obviously spent last year with the last 4 years, I guess, with Atlanta, but specifically last year had experience with Raheem Morris, and the Rams have kind of taken what Raheem Morris did on their defense, and Chris Shula has kind of added his own twist to it. So I think he's someone that Brings that experience next to Omar Spates, a guy that they can trust, a guy that they can trust there. Like you said, he isn't the best athlete, but you can almost always um, trust that he'll be in the in the right spot. Which when it comes to the linebacker position, the Rams obviously they don't invest a lot in that position. So just having somebody that you can trust to be in the right place is important, and he's the guy that provides that.
Would you say that Witherspoon would be considered like a very underrated player? Because I've heard some really good things about him, and maybe earlier in his career he was a little bit more. I know he had some injuries, and maybe he had some good years and bad years. Maybe he never lived up to where people thought he was going to be as a young player. But it just seems to really. I mean, he doesn't cost a whole lot of money. And on this team, is he like the number one corner?
Yeah, on this team, he's the number one corner. I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's the bed the Rams have decided to make. I think as far as that whole quarterback room goes, I think Rams have I think they're going with this philosophy that they have this. They have guys like Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, they have this pass rush, and that
Yeah.
pass rush can raise the floor of that secondary. So yeah, I think Witherspoon is another guy a guy that they can trust, a guy that they can expect to be in the right place. And I don't know if I would use the word underrated, but he certainly I think provides what the Rams need at the position.
Okay. Do you think that because like you said, I mean, I don't want to say smoke and mirrors, but there's like I said at the very beginning, there's a lot of people who believe the Rams are a true Super Bowl contender. And anytime you got great coaching, great front office, you've got a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and there's a lot to like about the Rams. But then you dig deeper, and you do see the remnants of the issues that we felt were going to happen a couple of years ago. When I remember looking at the Rams depth chart after the Super Bowl season, and it was like completely barren. It was like, where are all the players? And that's the incredible job that Les Snead has done in this scouting staff of putting these players into this role that just 2 years later, they're back to being a Super Bowl contender. But there are a lot of depth issues, aren't there?
Yes, there are. Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, you look at the offensive line, and I mean, you do have some experienced depth there with guys like Limmer at center and McLennan, the guy that they're excited about. But you go to this defense, and I mean, at linebacker, you're looking at Troy Reader, and not that Joel can't be good, but I think he just as an undrafted free agent, I think
Yeah.
it'd be lofty expectations to expect him to come in and start and be an impact player on defense. And I think that's something that he can be moving forward. I think as a rookie though, that those, like I said, those are lofty expectations. You look at edge rusher. They're really relying on a rookie and Josiah Stewart to be that third guy in that edge rusher rotation. And I think he can do it, but again, it's a risk. You look at the secondary. I mean, they took a chance on Emmanuel Forbes, and they're really taking a gamble there. Josh Wallace was an undrafted free agent last year who did play well, but again, he's an undrafted free agent. So Rams are they're threading this needle, and we'll see how well it threads and how well it threads and if luck goes their way. But yeah, that there are certainly I think some depth concerns at certain positions for sure.
And again, this is why if there's any team in contention for championship that needs this area here to be pretty barren, it is the Rams. They can't afford a lot of injuries here because of their lack of depth. Okay, so by the way, special teams okay? We know the kicker seems to be good. The punter, everything's okay here.
Special teams is probably the one area where I don't have any worries at all. Don't worry about it. Ethan Evans, I think is fantastic. Josh McCarty, I think has some bumps as a rookie, but looked really good in the preseason. I would expect a more consistent second year from him. And then Alex Ford at long snapper is about as good as you can expect from a long snapper. So,
and again, this is what I'm saying. This is why the amount of pressure that Les Snead and company have to hit on a lot of these draft picks is amazing because they've hit on a lot of them. And here's two right here. It ain't easy to draft punters and kickers, and oh yeah, they're both fine. Nothing wrong with them. And then we just talked about all these other players here on offense and defense, and some of the impact players as well that they've drafted. If they're not impact, this team's got problems. So it's an amazing job. But again, it's not a complete team because the depth is not there. So they just have to stay healthy. And that's the luck comes involved in that as well. So we'll see if the Rams get lucky this year. What do you think? Let's see their win total. Let me see if I can pop that up here. Let's see. Here it is. All right. So it looks like the win total is between 9.5 and 10.5. So where do you see the Rams right now as far as their win total this year? Where would you go?
I think their ceiling, that if everything goes well and they stay healthy and things go their way, I think 13 wins is their ceiling. I think as far as those betting lines go, I would feel a lot more comfortable taking the over at 9.5 than I would 10.5.
Even at minus 145 to plus 135. You have to put up a little bit more money on 9.5. You're okay. You're a little bit more iffy on the 11 then.
I
Okay.
would feel a lot more. I'd feel a lot more confident in saying this team can go 10-7 than I would 11-6. I think both are very possible. And
Yes.
I would expect them to I think hit either mark, but I think I'd be more confident in that over on 9.5 than 10.5. Like I said, I think this team has a ceiling of 13 wins. I think their floor is around that 10, 11 win.
Okay.
11 win range, and they'll be in that playoff in that playoff conversation again.
Did you put your predicted record together yet?
I did. I am a little biased, so I did have them at their ceiling of 13-4. But
Okay.
again, I do think if you're looking more realistic, though, I think probably that 11 win range is probably a little more.
Yeah, I think so.
A little more realistic. I mean, things are going to go the way all season, but balls going to bounce one way rather than the other. So, I think if you're looking at, I think 11 wins is certainly realistic.
Yeah, in my mind, it's just all about injuries. That's it.
Yeah,
it's Stafford, Jackson. We've talked about those are the big ones. Stay away from a rash of injuries. That if you do that, I'd be shocked if this team didn't win 11 or 12 games. I mean, shocked. Yeah. There's just too much talent. But again, they have to stay healthy. That's what you're wagering against is health. Okay, and they are the second choice, by the way, which I think is a little crazy. But again, maybe it comes up with the fact that nobody knows whether or not they are going to stay healthy. San Francisco is the favorite in the division. I think the Rams should still be the favorite in the division. But I think this is actually a wide open division, to tell you the truth. I actually like the Rams to finish first and Seattle to finish second.
Yeah, I think it's a wide open division as well. I think you look at I think the Cardinals' first 6 games are very manageable. I could certainly see them starting 4-2 or 5-1. Seattle year 2 under Mike McDonald, and I think that defense takes a huge step forward this year. That's a defense with a lot of talent. 49ers, I think, will be a lot more healthier this year, or a lot more healthy. And I think they have the easiest schedule in the NFL. So, this is going to be a division I think kind of goes down to the very end.
So week 1 against Houston, they're a 3-point favorite. What do you think about the game? What do you think about the matchup?
I think this is going to be a lot more of a defensive battle than I think people are expecting. That Texans offensive line is a mishmash or a hodgepodge of just uncertainty. I think you have Ariante Ursary at left tackle. That's going to be a plus matchup for Jared Verse. And then on the other side, obviously the Texans have Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. So I think the defenses are going to kind of dominate this game, and I think it's going to be low scoring. But I do think the Rams come out on top. Sean McVay is 6-2 in week 1 games. He's very good at having his teams ready to go week 1. So I would expect the Rams to win a close one.
Okay, and then they'll be at Tennessee, and then they got a big one with the Eagles right after that. They get the AFC South, so that's beneficial. When is their bye?
I think week 8. Yep.
Yep, there it is, week 8. And do they have like a real toughest part of the schedule or easy part of the schedule either way, or is it pretty balanced?
I think that right before the bye, I think is one of the harder parts of their schedule. You have Philly, you have Philly week 3, the Colts, but then you go into San Francisco. You're at Baltimore. That Jaguars game is in London. That's I think going to be a very difficult for sure.
Okay. And is there an easy part or not really?
Yeah, I probably the section that you're going up to right now is that I think
Yeah.
you have Carolina. I think Tampa Bay has some question marks now with Liam Cohen being gone. I think they'll still be good, but then the Cardinals late in the year is always usually a win. So yeah.
All right. So we'll see. I did speak with Cole Thompson, who covers the Texans, and for the Texans Wire, and he said the same thing about this being a defensive battle.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you guys are simpatico. So to me, that would be the wager if anybody's out there, because and I mean, both of you guys went with the teams that you're covering, but that's not a surprise because if it's a low scoring game and a good game, then anything is possible. Anybody can win. And taking a look, just let me see what the over/under is quickly.
I checked earlier today. I think it's 43.5, which is a tied for the third lowest of the week.
43.5. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is kind of low, but still, you're looking like what? What do you think? Like a 17-14 game, 20-14 game, something like that?
Yeah, like 23-20. Yeah, something like that.
20. Yeah. So just below the 43.5, 23-20.
Yeah.
All right. Sweat, make everybody sweat with that one. All right. Sounds good, Blaine. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to hopefully getting the opportunity to talk to you again at some point. Of course, it's going to be a big season for the Rams, so there'll be more than enough time to do that. We've got links in the description of this video. You can check out Blaine's work, where to follow him on social, and also where to follow his work at turfshowtimes.com. So again, Blaine, I appreciate your time, and have a good season.
Yeah, Greg, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You got it. All right, and that's going to wrap it up. We'll see everybody a little bit later on. We are going to be talking at 2:00 with the Green Bay Packers. We'll be talking at Jim Feist will be talking at 3:00 with 2 additional handicappers on Week 1 in the NFL. 4:00, I'll be talking New Orleans Saints. 5:00, we'll be talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. So we have a loaded lineup today, and we are going to be concluding, pretty sure, thinking about it, we are concluding our 32 NFL team previews today. Thank goodness. The season starts tomorrow. All 32, unless somebody has to reschedule out of the teams I just mentioned to you later on. But I'm really excited about finishing out the 32 team previews. So if you are you got a favorite team in the NFL, obviously we're watching right now, it's the Rams. But if you want to follow other teams, you want to know what's going on, like Houston, check it out. All of those interviews are in the NFL section, of course, on our channel, and definitely subscribe to the channel. Do that, follow us, and you'll never miss any of our interviews with any of our contacts from across the NFL and college football. And we're going to have wall-to-wall NFL and college football coverage every week right here on ProLine TV and the Our Lads Football Network. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Blaine, and we'll see you next time here on ProLine TV.